Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the four Kumaras, text number 15 onwards. Tadaham krita vishrambha suhrido vastapasvinam sampriche bhav etasmin kshemaha kena jaso bhavet. I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how in this material world we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. So Prithu Maharaj has met four Kumaras and he's glorified them and he has served them, welcomed them nicely, and now he's asking for questions. And he is inquiring only spiritual questions. He's not asking for anything else. So he's asking for the ultimate goal of life. How in this material world we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. When saintly persons go from door to door to see those who are too much materially engaged, it is to be understood that they do not go to ask anything for their personal benefit. It's a fact that saintly persons go to materialists just to give real information of the auspicious. Maharaj Prithu was assured of this fact. Therefore, instead of wasting time by asking the Kumaras about their welfare, he preferred to inquire from them whether he could soon be relieved from the dangerous position of materialistic existence. This was not, however, a question personally for Prithu Maharaj. It was raised to teach the common man that whenever one meets a great saintly person, one should immediately surrender unto him and inquire about relief from the material pains of existence. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Sansara Vishnale Divanishi Hiya Jale Judaite na kainu upay. We are always suffering from material pangs and our hearts are burning and we cannot find any way out of it. The materialistic person can also be called a tapasvi, which means someone who is always suffering from material pains. One can get rid of all these material pains only when he takes shelter of the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This is also explained by Narottam Das Thakur. Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. Ratina Janmi Lakene Tai. Narottam Das Thakur regretted that he did not pursue his attraction for the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. The conclusion is that all persons in the material world are suffering from material pains, and if one wants to get rid of them, he must associate with saintly persons, pure devotees of the Lord, and chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the only auspicious way for materialistic persons. So Prithu Maharaj is saying that we are suffering in the blazing fire of material existence. But the materialistic people who are really suffering, Prithu Maharaj is not suffering, but the materialistic people who are really suffering, they don't even know they are suffering. See, we can only know we are suffering if we know of a situation or a place where there is no suffering. Suppose I'm having a fever, or suppose now with the coronavirus going on, suppose in a hospital or in a place Everybody is infected with this coronavirus, and everybody is coughing. The fever is up, and whatever the symptoms are. So, but the doctors and nurses are there to take care of them, to uh, to make them healthy, to treat them properly. So doctors and nurses know that these persons are infected, they're not healthy. If the people, they don't know anything, if they don't know the doctors, if they don't know the normal healthy people outside the hospital, they wouldn't think this is normal. This is how we are supposed to be. There's nothing wrong. So similarly, people in the material world, we all are suffering. Birth, death, old age, disease, adidavik, adibautik, adhyatmic klesh. We all are suffering. But only when we come to know, no, there is a situation or there is a place where we don't have to go through all this. Why I have to go through all this nonsense? Then and then only we'll understand, oh, I'm suffering here, I better get out of here. So this is what Prithu Maharaj is asking the four Kumaras to let us know how we can achieve that place. And this is what the devotees do. This is what the spiritual master does. That inform people, give them the message, give them the knowledge. That is why it is said, Om Agyan Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakya. Spiritual master, he has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Eyes were closed with the ignorance, with the darkness of ignorance. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. And this is what Prabhupada has done. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, so many acharyas did, but Srila Prabhupada did all over the world. He just opened everybody's eyes. Why you're suffering here? Vyaktam atma vatam atma bhagwan atma bhavana swanam anugrahaya graha yemam siddharupi charati ajaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his parts and parcels, and for this special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. There are different kinds of transcendentalists, namely the Jnanis or impersonalists, the mystic yogis, and of course, all the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were both yogis and Jnanis, and finally bhaktas later on. In the beginning, they were impersonalists, but later they developed devotional activities. Therefore, they are the best of the transcendentalists. The devotees are representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to elevate the conditioned souls to their original consciousness, they travel all over the universes to enlighten the conditioned souls about Krishna consciousness. The best devotees are Atmavat, or those who have fully realized the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma is sitting within everyone's heart, trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he is called Atma Bhavana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always trying to give the individual soul the intelligence to understand about himself. He is always with the individual soul as a friend sitting by the side of a friend. And he gives facilities to all living entities according to their desires. So as Super Soul, he is within us. As Bhagwan, he sends his representatives, or he comes himself just to relieve us from this suffering condition. So that we at least turn towards him and try to walk towards him. The word Atmavatam is significant in this verse. There are three different kinds of devotees, namely Kanishtadhikari, Madhyam and Uttam Adhikari. The neophyte, the preacher, and the Mahabhagavat, or the highly advanced devotee. The highly advanced devotee is one who knows the conclusion of the Vedas in full knowledge. Thus he becomes a devotee. Indeed, not only is he convinced himself, but he can convince others on the strength of Vedic evidence. The advanced devotee can also see all other living entities as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, without discrimination. The Madhyamadhikari preacher is also well versed in the Shastras and can convince others also, but he discriminates between the favorable and the unfavorable. In other words, the Madhyamadhikari does not care for the demoniac living entities. And the neophyte Kanishtadhikari does not know much about Shastra, but has full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were Mahabhagavats because they, after scrutinizingly studying the absolute truth, they became devotees. In other words, they were in full knowledge of the Vedic conclusion. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by the Lord that there are many devotees, but a devotee who is fully conversant in the Vedic conclusion is very dear to him. Everyone is trying to elevate himself to the highest position according to his mentality. The karmis who have a bodily concept of life try to enjoy sense gratification to the utmost. The jnani's idea of the highest position is merging into the effulgence of the Lord. But a devotee's highest position is in preaching all over the world the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a devotee's highest position, and slowly, when we act on that position, we can elevate ourselves from Kanisht to Madhyam to Uttam Adhikari level. Of course, that level is not attained just by preaching, but by doing a sadhana properly and by service properly, and then by mercy of the Lord, we can slowly advance in our realizations and advance on the path of bhakti. So devotee's highest position is in preaching all over the world the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the devotees are actually the representatives of the Supreme Lord. And as such, they travel all over the world directly as Narayan, because they carry Narayan within their hearts and preach his glories. The representative of Narayan is as good as Narayan, but he is not to conclude, like the Mayavadis, that he has become Narayan. So he is as good as Narayan in the sense he is spiritual and he is carrying the Lord within his heart, always. So this is what the four Kumaras are doing. They are not Narayan, but they are the wonderful or complete representatives of Narayan. Generally, a sannyasi is addressed as Narayan by the Mayavadis. Their idea is that simply by taking sannyas, one becomes equal to Narayan or becomes Narayan himself. The Vedic conclusion is different. The Vaishnava conclusion is different. According to Vaishnava philosophy, a devotee is as good as Narayan by not by becoming Narayan, but by becoming the most confidential servant of Narayan. Such great personalities act as spiritual masters for the benefit of the people in general. And as such, a spiritual master who is preaching the glories of Narayan should be accepted as Narayan and be given all respects due him. So this is the Vaishnava philosophy. He is not Narayan. He is as good as Narayan because he is carrying the message of Narayan, and his desires are one with Narayan. He is the most confidential servant. Maitri Uvacha Prithos Tat Suktam Akarnya Saram Sushtu Mitam Madhu Smaymaniv Eva Pritya Kumaraha Pratyuvachaha. The great sage Maitreya continued. The Sanat Kumar, the best of the celibates, after hearing the speech of Prithu Maharaj, which was meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words, and very sweet to hear, smiled with full satisfaction and began to speak as follows. Prithu Maharaj's talks before the Kumaras were very laudable because of so many qualifications. A speech should be composed of selected words, very sweet to hear and appropriate to the situation. Such speech is called meaningful. All these good qualities, all these good qualifications are present in Prithu Maharaj's speech because he is a perfect devotee. It is said, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. For one who has unflinching devotional service in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Thus the Kumaras were very much pleased, and Sanat Kumar began to speak as follows. So Prithu Maharaj, in few shlokas only, he just summed up the whole thing. He welcomed Kumaras, he glorified them, and he asked them the questions. Sanat Kumar Uvacha Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja Sarvabhut Hitatmana Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhu Nam Matiridrishi. Sanat Kumar said, My dear King Prithu, I am very nicely cautioned by you. Such cautions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you, who are always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you ask such questions because that is a behavior of saintly persons. Such intelligence is befitting your position. So, although you know everything, so Sanat Kumar is glorifying Prithu Maharaj, that you are asking these questions because they're beneficial for all living entities and you're always thinking of good of others. Maharaj Prithu was well conversant in transcendental science, yet he presented himself before the Kumaras as one ignorant of it. The idea is that even if a person is very exalted and knows everything, before his superior, he should present cautions. For instance, although Arjuna knew all the transcendental science, he cautioned Krishna as if he did not know. Similarly, Prithu Maharaj knew everything, but he presented himself before the Kumaras as if he did not know anything. The idea is that the cautions by exalted persons put before the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotees are meant for the benefit of the general people. Therefore, sometimes great personalities put themselves in that position and inquire from a higher authority because they are always thinking of the benefit of others. So this is also humility of advanced persons like Prithu Maharaj. Like Prithu Maharaj is asking these questions to Kumaras. So it's for the benefit of all, himself also. And just like Suta Goswami says in the first or the second canto, when Shaunak Rishi was asking him questions, Munya sadhu prishtuham bhavadbhir lok mangalam. Your questions are very, very appropriate because they are for the benefit of all. So these kind of questions not only purify the speaker or the audience and the person who is asking the question and the audience. So it benefits all of them. And moreover, these questions, because they are all about the topics of Krishna, they're the beneficial, they're the ultimate beneficial for everybody. Sangama khalu sadhunam ubhesham ja sammataha yat sambhashana samprashnaha sarvesham vitnotisham. When there is a congregation of devotees, the discussions, questions, and answers become conclusive to both the speaker and the audience. Thus, such a meeting is beneficial for everyone's real happiness. Hearing discussions among the devotees is the only means to receive the powerful message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For instance, Bhagavad Gita has been well known all over the world for a very long time, especially in the Western world. But because the subject matter was not discussed by the devotees, there was no effect. Not a single person in the West became Krishna conscious before the Krishna consciousness movement was founded. But when the same Bhagavad Gita was presented as it is through the disciplic succession, the effect of spiritual realization was immediately manifested. So Prabhupada's books, and he's speaking of Bhagavad Gita in the beginning, where Bhagavad Gita, it's even more popular than Srimad Bhagavatam actually. So, but Bhagavad Gita also ultimately leads to devotional service. And when Prabhupada wrote the commentary, Bhagavad Gita as it is, even from the very beginning, from the very first verse, he kept on stressing on bhakti. Because this is what Krishna wanted. That's why Prabhupada named it as it is. Whatever Krishna wanted, not what I want or what somebody else wants, what Krishna wanted. So the result being, thousands and thousands of people have become devotees by reading Bhagavad Gita commentary by Srila Prabhupada. And before that, all the Bhagavad Gitas combined, there are about 700 editions. They could not transform the heart of even a single person. All the non-Vaishnava translations. So that is the effect of a pure devotee speaking and everybody else accepting the knowledge properly. Sanat Kumar, one of the Kumaras, informed Prithu Maharaj that his meeting with the Kumaras benefited not only Prithu Maharaj, but the Kumaras as well. When Narad Muni questioned Lord Brahma about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma thanked Narad Muni for giving him a chance to speak about the Supreme Lord. Therefore, questions put by a saintly person to another saintly person about the Supreme Personality of Godhead or about the ultimate goal of life surcharge everything spiritually. Whoever takes advantage of such discussions is benefited both in this life and in the next. And actually, these are the questions that we should be asking, so that we all learn how to make progress. And even if we know everything, by hearing more and more, it just helps us in our realizations. The word Ubhayesham can be described in many ways. Generally, there are two classes of men, the materialist and the transcendentalist. By hearing discussions between devotees, both the materialist and transcendentalist are benefited. The materialist is benefited by association of devotees because his life then becomes regulated so that his chance of becoming a devotee or making the present life successful for understanding the real position of the living entity is increased. When one takes advantage of this opportunity, he is assured of a human form of life in the next birth. Or he may be liberated completely and go back to Godhead. Conclusion is that if one participates in a discussion of devotees, he is both materially and spiritually benefited. The speaker and the audience are both benefited, and the karmis and jnanis are benefited. The discussion of spiritual matters amongst devotees is beneficial for everyone without exception. Consequently, the Kumaras admitted that not only was the king benefited by such a meeting, but the Kumaras were as well. And that's a fact. Everybody gets benefited. A materialist, if he hears, then there is a chance of his becoming a devotee. And if it is a devotee who's hearing, who are discussing, then their realizations or their knowledge, their vigyan grows, everything grows. So Krishna Katha is always, always beneficial. Asteva Rajan Bhavato Madhudvishaha Padarvindasya Gunanuvadane Ratira Durapa Vidunoti Nashtiki Kamam Kashayam Malamantaratmanaha. My dear king, you already have an inclination to glorify the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such attachment is very difficult to achieve. But when one has attained such unflinching faith in the Lord, it automatically cleanses lusty desires from the core of the heart. So, when one has attained with such unflinching faith, so that is the stage of Nishtha. So, Ado Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajanagriya, then Anarth Nivritti, then Nishtha, then Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, Prem. These are the stages, how one makes progress. So by association with devotees, dirty things within the heart of a materialistic man are gradually washed away by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As silver becomes shiny by being polished, the heart of a materialistic person is cleansed of lusty desires by the good association of devotees. Actually, the living being has no connection with this material enjoyment, nor with lusty desires. He is simply imagining or dreaming while asleep. But by the association of pure devotees, he is awakened, and immediately the spirit soul is situated in his own glory by understanding his constitutional position as eternal servant of the Lord. Ritu Maharaj was already a self-realized soul, and therefore he had a natural inclination to glorify the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Kumaras assured him that there was no chance of his falling victim to the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. In other words, the process of hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord is only means to clarify the heart of material contamination. So this is the only means, hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. And when one comes to the stage of Nishtha, there is no chance of him falling down, falling back into the ensnares of Maya. Then it's only going up and up and up. But once a person takes to the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord by devotional service, automatically all dirty things in the heart are removed without difficulty. So all dirty things means all the unwanted desires, starting with Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Matsarya. Everything is gone, completely finished, taken away, cleansed. Cheto Darpana Marjanam will happen. So this devotional service is very, very powerful. And especially in this day of Kali Yuga, when everything is dirty, chanting of the holy names, very simple and easy process, but very, very sublime, very powerful. And it can just cleanse the heart completely. All we have to do is do it properly with faith and at least come to the stage of Nishtha, fixed faith, that no matter what happens, I'll not give it up. Okay, so we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.